a small village in Japan during the feudal era, there was a wealthy and powerful samurai family. This family was famous for their collection of 10 exquisite porcelain plates, each adorned with unique patterns and of great value. These plates were not only decorative items but also symbols of the family's status and honor. Within this samurai household lived a young maid named Okiku. She was hardworking, loyal, and well-loved by everyone in the house. Okiku possessed both beauty and a gentle nature, which, unfortunately, led to jealousy from some members of the family, especially the samurai lord's wife. One day, while cleaning the living room, Okiku accidentally dropped one of the precious plates. The plate shattered into pieces, and Okiku was overcome with fear. She knew that if anyone discovered this, she would face severe consequences. In her panic, she decided to hide the broken shards, hoping that no one would notice. However, a few days later, the samurai's wife realized that the 10th plate was missing. She immediately suspected Okiku, as the young maid was responsible for cleaning and taking care of the valuable plates. Despite Okiku's desperate pleas of innocence, the samurai's wife was convinced that she had stolen the plate to sell for money or for some other personal reason. The samurai lord, although reluctant to believe Okiku could commit such an act, was pressured by his wife to take action. He decided to torture Okiku to force a confession. Bound and brutally beaten, Okiku endured excruciating pain but never admitted to the crime, as she was truly innocent. She wept and begged for mercy, but no one listened. After days of torment, Okiku tragically died in agony and despair. Following Okiku's death, strange occurrences began to plague the samurai household. Each night, from the well in the courtyard, the eerie voice of a woman could be heard counting, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, the counting continued over and over but never reached 10. It was the spirit of Okiku, still searching for the missing 10th plate for which she had been wrongfully accused. Unable to find peace, Okiku's ghost haunted the well, the place where her lifeless body had been discarded. Her mournful counting echoed through the night, filling the household with terror. The samurai family, unable to bear the haunting any longer, sought a way to rid themselves of the restless spirit. The samurai lord summoned a Buddhist monk to perform a purification ritual. The monk communicated with Okiku's spirit and understood the deep injustice she had suffered. He advised the samurai family to acknowledge their wrongdoing and apologize to Okiku's spirit. After much hesitation, the samurai lord finally admitted that he and his wife had been wrong to accuse Okiku. He sincerely apologized and vowed to atone for their mistake. Once Okiku's spirit received the apology, she was finally able to find peace. The eerie counting from the well ceased, and the samurai household was able to live in tranquility once more. However, the story of Okiku and the missing 10th plate continued to be passed down through generations, serving as a solemn reminder of injustice and the suffering endured by women in the feudal society. The meaning behind the story. The tale of Okiku is not merely a ghost story but also carries profound messages. It reflects the injustice and suffering that women endured in the feudal era, where power and status often took precedence over justice and truth. Okiku, a kind and diligent young woman, became the victim of jealousy and baseless accusations. She was wrongfully punished and tortured to death without a chance to prove her innocence. Her restless spirit haunting the well, endlessly counting from 1 to 9, symbolizes incompleteness and unresolved sorrow. The missing 10th plate, the object of her wrongful accusation, represents the truth and justice that she could never attain in life. Only when the samurai family acknowledged their mistake and offered a sincere apology was Okiku's spirit able to find peace, highlighting the idea that only truth and repentance can bring true resolution. The story also serves as a reminder of the importance of listening and understanding others. If the samurai lord and his wife had listened to Okiku from the beginning, the tragedy could have been avoided. Jealousy and groundless suspicion led to an unnecessary tragedy, and only by admitting their faults could the family mend the wounds of the past. The street was deserted, with only the sound of falling rain accompanying the dim glow of the streetlights. Akira, a high school student, walked quickly on his way home after an extended tutoring session. As he walked, lost in thoughts about tomorrow's test, he suddenly heard footsteps behind him. Akira turned around. A woman in a white dress with long black hair was standing a few meters away from him. She wore a face mask, concealing all but her cold, sharp eyes. A chill ran down Akira's spine, but he forced himself to stay calm and keep walking. Suddenly, the woman spoke. "Am I beautiful?" Her voice was cold, echoing in the rainy night. Akira stopped, his heart racing. He looked back at the woman, trying to appear calm. "Yes, you are beautiful." The woman slowly pulled down her face mask. Akira was horrified to see her face was slashed from ear to ear, creating an unnaturally wide, terrifying smile. She asked again, her voice threatening. "How about now?" Akira stumbled back, trembling. He remembered the rumors about Kukase-kana, the slit-mouthed woman, and knew he was in danger. Trying to compose himself, he replied. "Just average." Kukase-kana paused for a moment, her eyes narrowing as if in thought. Akira seized the opportunity, turned around, and ran for his life. The woman's footsteps echoed behind him, getting closer and closer. He ran into a small alley, but Kukase-kana kept pursuing him. Akira looked around and spotted an open convenience store. He rushed inside, panting. The store clerk looked at him strangely, but Akira didn't care. He looked through the glass door and saw the woman's figure standing outside, her eyes filled with hatred. After a few minutes, Kukase-kana disappeared. Akira let out a relieved sigh, knowing he had barely escaped death. He decided to call the police, but when they arrived, there was no trace of the woman. From that day on, Akira never dared to walk alone at night. He told his friends about the incident, but no one believed him. It wasn't until others encountered Kukase-kana that panic spread. To this day, Kukase-kana remains a mystery. People say she still wanders the empty streets, looking for new victims. And if one day you hear strange footsteps at midnight, be careful. Kukase-kana might be waiting for you. After that night, Akira was never the same. During long nights, he would wake up from nightmares. In his dreams, he would find himself standing on an empty street, haunted by the woman's footsteps behind him. Each time he woke up, drenched in sweat, his heart pounded as if he had just sprinted for his life. Akira's friends began to notice his changes. He became quiet, easily startled, and would constantly look out windows as if someone was watching him. One day, his best friend Hiroshi asked, "What's wrong with you? You look like you've lost your soul lately." Akira shook his head, unwilling to relive that night. But then, a terrifying event occurred that made him unable to stay silent any longer. A week later, on a stormy night, Akira was studying in his room when he heard a knock at the door. He looked out the window but saw no one. The knocking came again, louder this time. Akira opened the door, and there she stood, a woman in a white dress, her long hair drenched, a face mask covering her mouth. "Am I beautiful?" Akira's heart pounded as he took a step back. This time, there was no escape. He tried to stay calm and said, "Just average." Kukase-kana didn't react immediately. She slowly pulled down her mask, revealing her split face. Akira closed his eyes, preparing for the worst. But suddenly, a phone ring broke the silence, causing the woman to pause. Akira seized the opportunity, slammed the door shut, and locked it. He called the police, but by the time they arrived, she had vanished without a trace. From that day on, Akira decided to learn about Kukase-kana and how to escape from her. Akira sought out a priest at the nearby temple. After hearing his story, the priest said, "Kukase-kana is a vengeful spirit that cannot find peace. She can only be banished through a special ritual. The priest instructed Akira on how to perform the ritual. He needed to find an ancient mirror and place it where she appears. When Kukase Kana looks into the mirror, her spirit would be sealed forever. Akira followed the priest's instructions. That night, he placed the ancient mirror on the street where he first encountered Kukase Kana. When the woman appeared, she looked into the mirror and let out a terrifying scream. Light from the mirror enveloped her, and Kukase Kana vanished. Ending, the return of peace. After the ritual, the nightmares stopped, and Akira was no longer haunted by Kukase Kana. But he knew that the story of the slit-mouthed woman still exists somewhere in the empty streets. And if you ever hear strange footsteps at midnight, be careful, never answer her question too easily.